almost baseball season. American League East coming up first. So, Liam, got to ask you, what are you thinking about the American League East?
Yeah, so I think it's probably taken a bit of a step back as a whole with Juan Soto and Corbin Burns leaving, but the Red Sox obviously got better. The Rays got healthier, and the Blue Jays are, kind of the same exact team. But I still think it's a pretty good division. It's a little more open than it was last year, which I think is exciting. Um, my pick right now would be Baltimore, but I know people are excited about the Red Sox and Yankees too.
I might be a little bit biased in this, but I really do think the Red Sox, this is their year to win the American League East. I've been a depressed Red Sox fan ever since they traded my favorite player, Mookie Betts, and this is the first year where there's been some like very genuine excitement, I think, about the team in the preseason, where it's like, okay, they could really do something. What's your prediction in terms of like 1 through 5 of how you think the standings are going to fall?
Yeah, so I would go Baltimore 1, Boston 2, Tampa 3, the Yankees 4, and the Blue Jays 5. And that's how I felt going into spring training. And then the start to the year that the Yankees have had has just made it seem like even more possible that they're going to have kind of a rough year. Um, I mean, I'm not a Yankees fan. Like they knock Cleveland out of the playoffs almost every year, but like they've had such an awful start to the year. Like I do feel bad for their fans, like with the injuries and stuff, like after losing Soto, but it just kind of seems like it might be a year from hell for them.
I have to agree with you on that. I think the addition of Alex Bregman and getting Garrett Crochet there for the Red Sox is huge. Those are two really big names that they've added to their roster. I think overall it's a very good team. I think the biggest questions right now is Connor Wong, catcher. That might be their weakest spot. Out of their starters, and then they might need to add a little bit to their bullpen. But overall, I think they have a mostly complete team, and it's going to be fun to watch. I think their lineup is really, really good, and they have the good thing is they've had issues with Trevor Story in the past that they haven't been able to take care of with injuries. Now he's healthy, and hopefully he can have his first healthy season in Boston 4 years in. But if not, they have a lot of talent in their farm system with Christian Campbell, who could play the infield coming up potentially. You know, you got Marcelo Meyer, who can play short. And then obviously Roman Anthony as well. So I think the Red Sox are good. Two, I would say Baltimore. I think Baltimore is taking a step back because they lost Corbin Burns over the offseason, and that's a tough one to make up. And then after that, I think it's really tough to say because the Yankees just went to the World Series, but no more Juan Soto, like you said. And then you have Garrett Cole out for the year with Tommy John, and you got they losing Stanton, LeMahieu's hurt, so I don't know how that's going to fall. I think Yankees could be 3 or they could be 4. Then you have Baltimore, or excuse me, you have Tampa right there. But Tampa doesn't even have a freaking stadium right now because it got destroyed in a hurricane. And then the Blue Jays just aren't that great outside of Vlad. So I think this is the Red Sox opportunity, but Baltimore can still make a run at a wild card. And I just feel like the Yankees are in for a rough year after what happened last year. So
Yeah, you touched on it. My big concern with Boston is the bullpen. Like they just don't have a closer right now. Like I don't trust Chapman at all. He just keeps failing on different teams.
yes,
And then like I love Liam Hendricks, but it kind of seems like he might be done, unfortunately. So they need a closer. And like Kenley Jansen wasn't he's obviously not in his prime, but at least like you knew what was coming when he was in the game. So I think that's a huge hole for them. And then I think what everybody's forgetting with Baltimore is they're getting Felix Bautista back, who's like maybe the best closer in baseball, and he missed all of last year with TJ. So all they have to do is make one trade for a starting pitcher, and I think they're the best team in the AL. Like their lineup is so stacked. So I really like them. I love Garrett Crochet. I think he's probably going to win Cy Young. So I do love that for Boston. And then the prospects, like I hope they just play the guys, but like if they're gonna let Roman Anthony play in AAA for, you know, Rafaela, then like I don't think this is a serious team if they're doing stuff like that. Like they need to play Christian Campbell right now and like let him struggle.
I agree, but I don't think he's going to come up till May or June because the service time thing that every team in the bigs manipulates. So that's my prediction is they're going to have Devers probably at third, even though Bregman should play third. And then eventually Campbell will come up and maybe Devers gets moved to DH around the start of the summer. Bregman goes to third and Campbell can play second. We'll see. And then the outfield's also interesting because there's so many players who can play it. You got Rafaela, I think Abreu's temporarily hurt, and then Duran's obviously fantastic. He's proven that over the last year. And then we'll see. I think Yoshida might get traded just because he's a big contract. He's a decent hitter, but he's a big contract, and they already have a packed outfield, and you need to make room for Roman Anthony potentially.
Yeah,
So,
that's the big one for them is if they're going to be able to find anybody to get that Yoshida contract. Because if they can offload him, they can put Devers at DH where he belongs, put Bregman at third, and then you can play Anthony or Campbell in left. And I like David Hamilton, but like I think he's a bench guy. I don't think he should be starting every day.
oh, I totally
Um,
agree.
and I think Abreu is like borderline in that regard. Whereas like I think Roman Anthony's going to be like a stud immediately. I do think Durant's probably going to take like a little bit of a step back, but with like a fully healthy Cassis and then Bregman, like that lineup could be a monster.
Yes, totally agree with that. I'll let you go to your division.
Yeah, the Central. Everybody likes to say it's the worst division every year. I think it's incredibly mediocre this year. Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Twins, and then the lowly White Sox. I think the top four teams are like you could pick any of them. I think honestly, I think the Guardians like had a horrible offseason, so I would not pick them to win the division. I'm leaning Kansas City, but last year I really liked Detroit, and they kind of snuck in at the last second. The Twins can never stay healthy. Royce Lewis is already hurt again. But I really like their pitching staff. I love their bullpen. But the Central is it just seems like it's a toss up every year. So other than the White Sox, who I do think will be better than last year since they were the worst team in the history of the sport, but I'm not sure how good they'll be.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. I think it's kind of a crapshoot. I'd say just with Screwball, like I really like the Tigers. I think I'd probably go Tigers, Royals, but and probably Guardians, Twins maybe, but and White Sox obviously last. But honestly, the top four could go in any order. I really do think that.
Yeah, I would lean right now would be Royals, Tigers, Twins, Guardians, I think, but like they could all be separated by like 2 games. Um, I don't trust the Detroit lineup enough. And the Royals have Bobby Witt, so
Yes, he's
that's
fantastic.
that's the deal. That's the tiebreaker for me. It's like they just have the best player, and he plays shortstop every day. So kind of hard to pick against them.
Okay, you want to go to the West now?
Yeah, the West I think is really fun. I think it might be better than the AL East this year, which I'm not sure a lot of people would agree with, but the Rangers I think are very, very good. They kind of had I mean, they won the World Series, and then last year they had some injuries, and I think people kind of forgot about them. I think they're going to be a monster this year. The Mariners have an elite pitching staff. I think it's the best in baseball. The Astros are the Astros. And then I actually think the Athletics aren't going to be that bad this year. And then the Angels, I think, could be the worst team in the league. But the top three, I think, is really strong. And then I don't think Oakland or Sacramento is as bad as people are going to expect them to be. They have a really like fun core group of younger players now, and they're playing in a AAA ballpark, so they could like actually hit this year, which would be nice. Um, but the Angels are an absolute dumpster fire. I don't know what that team is doing.
I feel so bad for Mike Trout. He was just like growing up, he was like the guy. He was just like a guy that everybody looked up to. And, you know, you had him, you had Otani, and they refused to trade anybody. And then they have Rendon, and they just mismanaged that whole situation. I just feel like it's like you have great talent that was wasted by awful management. People just did not get it together, and they could have. I would have personally like Otani was great, with a year and a half left on his deal and the situation they were in, I think they should have traded him instead of getting nothing, and they could have completely replenished their farm system. And same thing with Trout. It's better to have, it sucks to trade those guys, but it's better to have a fire sale and then get good in a few years than have nothing left.
Yeah, and I think like everything you just said about them when they had Otani and Trout, like all of those people that were in charge are still there, except now the good players are gone. So it's like the bad people are still there, but the good people are gone, except for Trout. So I think it could be like really, really bad. I think Trout probably does get traded this year. I think he finally, like he said before the year, like he's finally open to playing in like I think he's moving to right field this year. Like they're getting him out of center. Like if he's just puts together a couple healthy months, like they could get a pretty incredible package for him. And like I think he knows what point of his career he's at, and I think he just wants to win. Would be my guess. So
Right.
like because it's baseball, I'm sure he'll end up being a Dodger somehow. But I do think he'll get traded. I also just like hope he does. Like he deserves success.
I agree.
But even last year, he was only healthy for a little bit, but he was awesome. So like he's still really good. He just needs to stay healthy.
So honestly, genuinely, where do you think he'll wind up if he gets traded? Because I have a thought.
Hmm. I would guess like the Giants or the Red Sox, like one of those teams that's like a big market that hasn't had huge success recently. I think would try and make like a big splash for him. Like I mean, the Mets could do something like because you have to have a pretty good group of prospects to get him. But I also think the Angels are so incompetent that you could kind of steal him for what he's not actually worth.
I agree. I know he would love to go to Philly because they're a legit contender and they have a really good team over there and that's where he's from. So I know he would love that. It's just they already have some good outfielders over there. So it would be interesting.
Well, and the Phillies are the only team that they've made like decent trades with in the last like 10 years. Like they got Logan O'Hoppe from them for Brandon Marsh, and like O'Hoppe's one of their only good players. And then last year they got George Klassen and Samuel Aldegari, who are like two decent pitching prospects. Like so if they were gonna make a trade with the team, like the one team that's given them a good player is probably a good place to start.
Makes sense. So I agree. I think the A's are probably going to be in the 75 to 80 win range. That's my guess. So I'd have them at four. Obviously, we agree on Angels at five, A's at four. The rest of the way, I think Texas wins the division. I think they're pretty good. I think they could be a 90 win team. And then it's hard to say because, like, I think I'd agree that Houston three and Seattle two probably because Houston's been gutted. They've lost a lot. They still have Altuve, and they're still you can never count them out because just their organization and how impressive it is. But I feel like they're three this year with Bregman's gone, George Springer. I'm pretty sure he's gone, and
Yeah, the big one is Tucker.
yeah,
Losing Kyle
he's on the
Tucker.
Cubs now, right?
Yeah.
So
They're like you said, like there's such a system of success there that like I'm not gonna pick against them until they show that they can't succeed. But I Texas is my favorite team in the AL on paper. If DeGrom stays healthy, it's kind of like Trout. Like if DeGrom stays healthy, like he's the best pitcher in the league. So I love Texas. Seattle, I just want them to be good. Like they're just a fun team. Like, but they just can't put together a good lineup. And I think they had the worst offseason of any team. They didn't do anything.
that's interesting. I think that's not a bad take. Their like you said, their rotation is absolutely killer, but their lineup is atrociously bad. It's
Yeah.
laughable.
Yeah. Like they have Julio, they have Cal Raleigh, and then it's like Randy Rosarina. Like there's such a drop off after that. And in the ballpark, it like where they play, it's so hard to hit. So not surrounding it with good hitters is like you're putting your team at a strong disadvantage.
I agree. I would say division winners for me. I go Boston, Detroit, and Texas, and then my wild cards. I think I got to go with Baltimore, Kansas City, Seattle. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but stuff could change. Like it's baseball, anything could happen. There's, like we said, there's four teams in the Central.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't have Houston in. That'd be fun. I hope they don't get in, but that surprises me.
I don't know. I feel like I said, I have Seattle as the two, and I have Houston as the three. So who knows? I just feel like Houston's lost a lot, but yeah, it's hard because you have only a few wild cards you can pick. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I would go Baltimore, Kansas City, Texas, Boston, Houston, and Tampa would be my six. But I think you could make a case for everyone in the AL except the White Sox and the Angels. I like it'd be hard to sell me on Toronto, but I could see it just because they have Vladdy and Bichette.
Right.
I could see like a Scherzer bounce back, but like I think the AL is pretty wide open. Because like there's question marks with every team. That's always how it is. But like the NL is so top heavy, whereas the American League, I think there's just like nine good teams. Like there's just good baseball teams all over the place.
In terms of teams that you think are like pretty close to complete. Like, I'm not talking about a team. Like, we just kind of went over the teams that we think are going to get into the playoffs or have a chance to. Like, there's 13 teams who have a chance to. I think we both agree on that. But teams who are like actually elite and have a chance of making it out of the American League to the World Series and competing for a championship, I think it's Boston, Texas, Baltimore, and it's just God no, Kansas City I could see, and I could see Detroit, but I feel like those teams have to get better.
Yeah, mine would be Texas, Baltimore, Boston, and Houston.
Okay.
But it's I mean, and then like if the Yankees stay healthy, like they have Aaron Judge, like you could totally that would surprise me at all if they won 100 games. I just don't see it, but they're the favorite, like on DraftKings and stuff. Like they're the favorite to win the division, so like you can't totally count them out. But
Bet the under, bet the under.
I'm very pessimistic about their season right
You
now.
just said that you picked them to finish fourth, and you also said they could win over 100 games.
I mean they could trade for Mike Trout. They could trade for
True.
they're the Yankee. Like they're not the Dodgers, but they used to be the Dodgers. So like last year, I didn't think they'd be as good as they were, and they kicked everyone's butt. So I'm not a huge Max Fried guy, but like he could be lights out. I'm not. I'm actually not sold on Garrett Cole anymore. So like that injury sucks a lot, but I don't think it like totally kills them. I don't like the bullpen. I don't like the lineup, but they're the Yankees. Like they're like the Astros. They're just good. But I'm out.
What's your ALCS pick?
I would go Texas over Baltimore.
I'm gonna say Boston over Texas.
I'm shocked.
Hey, I've been fair. I've criticized my own team for like the past 4 years, and now is my chance where I actually get to give them credit. I've been
Yeah.
very harsh on them. I've been fair.
Well, they screwed Bloom because he did such a good job with their farm, and now that they're like all up and developed, they're like,
Right.
wow, the Red Sox have the best farm in baseball, and they just got rid of the guy that did all of it. So
True.
that I think isn't the smartest thing in the world, but like you get Garrett Crochet, like you mean business. Like I love
We
Garrett
got
Crochet.
I feel like with Bloom, like he did a good job with the farm system, and now like that's coming to fruition exactly like you said. But I like the job that Breslow's done. I feel like Heim was hesitant to pull the trigger on stuff to make some of the big moves, and part of it was because they weren't ready, and they are now. But part of it, I just think, was kind of his style. And I feel like Heim got scapegoated for some stuff when it was like ownership said trade Mookie, which they should have
Yeah.
never done, which was really stupid. But
Yeah.
that
I mean,
wasn't
you're seeing it now in the NBA with Dallas. Like you make a move like that, it just sets your franchise back 10 years.
right.
Um, but like the really truly elite MLB teams, like the Dodgers, the Yankees, like those teams have success at the big league level while also still having elite farm systems. Like the Dodgers farm is stacked. So like ideally you would keep Bloom and then have like a Breslow guy also in the front office where they can work together instead of having like, all right, we're doing farm system and now we're good and now we're doing MLB stuff. Like You want to develop both at the same time, I think.
I agree. What's your overall take on a good GM? Because like you had what happened with you had Dave Dombrowski who helped assemble the 2018 Red Sox, which 108 wins, won the World Series, didn't lose multiple games in the series, just a very elite, great baseball team. But the farm system was good. Then you had Heim, which he was kind of forced to trade Mookie, but he did develop a good farm system, which has taken time. So, what's your general philosophy on what a good GM is, and are you upset at all? If you're obviously a Guardians fan, but like with the way that Dombrowski handled stuff, or the way that Bloom handled stuff specifically.
So it's you can't have like a blanket good GM, I think, because different teams have different budgets. So like the Guardians and Pirates have just like they're not going to spend money ever. So like you can't have a Dombrowski guy because like he's just going to try and make like big splashy moves, and the ownership is going to be like, no, you can't do that. Where the Red Sox got screwed is they were a big market team, and the ownership tried to act like they were the Pirates, and it doesn't work. So like um I'm not good with like the names of GMs, but the Braves guy I think is the
Alex
best. Like
Anthopoulos, he's
Anthopoulos, like
phenomenal. He's
he's
the best.
incredible. The Padres guy I really like. Like he makes like huge splashy moves. Like I mean, they traded for Juan Soto. Basically, he didn't like it didn't click with them, and then they traded Juan Soto away and still made the playoffs. Like that's pretty impressive. But like when you're the team, like when you're the Dodgers or the Yankees, and the Red Sox used to be in that same class, like you just have to spend money. Like you have to make big splashy moves. So this year was the first year the Red Sox like went back to doing that. Like you kind of have to embrace that you're the bad guy. Like you have the money. Like spend it. Like it's what the Mets did. Like with Juan Soto. Like it's not the fans' money. Like who cares? Like go spend $750 million to make your baseball team better. So I think like obviously it all comes down to the ownership, but like if you're a big market team, like just you have the fan base, you have the revenue, like go make the decisions to make your team good.
Overall, I agree, but I think there's situations where there's overpays. Like, I think I've said it a million times. I'll keep saying it for the rest of my life. It's stupid they traded Mookie. They should have never traded Mookie. They should have just spent the money and given him his contract because now the guys who aren't as good as Mookie are getting bigger contracts than what Mookie would have had in Boston. So I think that was dumb. But I also think like Soto, like he got a huge contract and people are upset that we didn't get him in Boston. And I'm just like, I'm okay with that because it was just so much money that was spent on him. And I think he's good. I wouldn't pay him more than Otani.
No. Yeah, I was surprised he got
Me
a
too. Oh,
contract
yeah.
that big because I didn't think he'd want one that long. Like I thought he would try and get like an 8 or 9 year deal so he could get a second deal when the money's just going to keep going up. But baseball's a unique place where like if you give out a really terrible contract, it doesn't completely kneecap you the way it does in the NBA, where like, oh, we paid Embiid all this money, we paid Bradley Beal all this money. Our team is screwed now. Like you can give out all this money to big stars, and it's like, all right, well, it sucks, but it's just sitting there. Like the Nationals won a World Series, they still have to pay Steven Strasburg. I don't think they care. Like with no cap, like you might as well do it. But also, I see where you're coming from, where it's like, Jesus, like thank God we didn't have to spend $1 billion on Juan Soto. Like let's go get Garrett Crochet.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad. I would have liked to have him for a more reasonable price. I'm glad they didn't get him. All right. I think that wraps up our American League edition. So I got Boston, you got Texas. We'll see where the chips fall. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps out a bunch and is completely free. Thank you.